Leslie, and I am the host of the Why Not Today podcast. This is a podcast to celebrate people who have been courageous and said, Why not today? I started the podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often said, Why not today? I'm based in Reston, Virginia, a planned community right outside of DC, and thanks for joining us today. And I am excited. This is the second episode in our second season, so it's been over a year, which is a milestone and really fun. And I love meeting new people and their stories. And today I have Christian Quesenberry. Did I say that right?
Quesenberry.
Quesenberry, okay, as my guest. And I always like to talk about, you never know who you're going to meet and how you're going to connect with someone. So Christian, I was introduced to first down at Smith Mountain Lake. A friend of mine knows somebody that is a musician, and he played on his dock, and we went years ago, and then during COVID again, and Christian was playing. Kind of got to know you there, Christian, and then reached out to you about playing music locally here in Northern Virginia. But then it just kind of followed you. You had a song come out, heard it, and I love your story and your courage and what you've had to overcome in your life. And so I'm excited to have you share your story and share with listeners kind of what you've been able to do with your life. So why don't you introduce yourself? I don't know you that well, except for seeing you on stage. You're an amazing musician. And tell us a fun fact about you.
It's funny when you see me on stage and then when you see me off stage, it's like, is that really the same guy? I kind of lose myself on stage a little bit. But hi, I'm Christian Quesenberry. I'm 26 years old. I was actually born in Sacramento, California. When I was 2 years old, I was adopted and moved out here to Huddleston, Virginia, Smith Mountain Lake area. That's where I was raised. That's where I live
now. What a difference. California.
Right. West Coast to East Coast, right?
Yeah. Small town, Virginia.
Yeah. I'm still a hippie, though. But anyway, so yeah, I grew up on a farm with my two sisters, my dad, my mom. I didn't really have the best childhood. I mean, I had an awesome childhood, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of weird. I went from a kind of an abusive situation with my biological parents, and to now I'm 26, and I kind of have realized that, maybe my adoptive situation wasn't as good as it could have been either, So I haven't really came from a lot of good situations. My dad was an alcoholic growing up my whole life. And I think that's where a lot of my alcohol addiction and drug abuse came from, was seeing that. And my mom was kind of an enabler for that. She didn't really approve of it, but she didn't really do anything to prevent it, So it wasn't really an easy childhood. There are good times. We had good times and there are bad times, but that's everybody, everybody's life.
So what's a fun fact about Christian?
Oh, fun fact about me. Let's see. This is the first time I've ever had long hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is the longest my hair has ever been. I've always had short hair because my dad made me keep it short growing up. And I told myself when COVID hit, I was like, you know what? I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Well, that's really cool. I just thought it was part of the musician look of you.
No, it's funny. I actually it's my COVID hair, and I decided to not cut it because it's funny because people actually have now said to me like, Christian, you can't cut it. It's your rock star look. You can't cut it.
It is. That's
and
the
I'm
only
like,
way
well,
I've ever known you.
I'll keep it. If give the people what they want.
Exactly. And is it kind of a rebellion against your dad?
A little bit, yeah. Like, come on, dude. I do what I want now.
Exactly. Well, so I love your story, and I'm excited for you to share it with everybody listening. But before we start, what does courage mean to you?
Courage to me means just being upfront and standing up for what you personally believe in, whatever it may be. It can be anything, whatever your religious base is, your political base, or just how you view life. Courage is standing up what you personally believe in and not letting other people dictate who you are and who you should be.
Love that. Yeah, totally agree. It's interesting with all the episodes. Everybody's got a different twist on what courage is. My brother, who I interviewed last week or the last episode, actually looked it up in the dictionary. He's the first person to do that. But
well, the Webster
yeah,
dictionary.
Exactly. So it sounds like you've had a courageous life, from moving from West Coast to the East Coast, from California, which is a whole different world than Virginia because I've
Right.
spent time in both places, and being adopted and abuse and alcoholism. So it sounds like you've had a very courageous life from the get go. So, and then I know just recently on a journey of becoming sober yourself in your music, that definitely takes courage. So why don't you share with us, what things you think you've done are courageous and to give other people hope and share a little bit of your
Um,
journey and the things you've had to do that are courageous. And you probably have to keep doing it. And I was thinking about you yesterday because for those watching or listening, it took us a couple times to get this done. And you had major cell phone issues and internet
I got it.
issues. You
Oh,
admitted you almost threw the phone out the window, which I can
yeah.
feel your pain. But, and on a sober journey, that is one of those things. It was probably maybe a little
That's gonna
challenging.
drive me to drinking, girl.
Yeah. I'm like, so, all right, share
um,
some stories.
so yeah, so I guess for me, the biggest thing is that this is all I do for a living. A lot of people tell me, that's a big step in of itself. Music. It's crazy how our society won't, and they just refuse to view what I do as an actual profession, like a real job, a real career. Even on the level that I am, I'm still pretty local, a little regional, as far as the artist that I am right now. I'm not international or worldwide by any means, but it's crazy to think that someone can look at me and be like, "Oh, get a real job." Like I jumped off the deep end from I worked the 9 to 5s, man. I did kitchen jobs. I did CNA work. I worked in the medical field. I was a painter for a little while. I did the 9 to 5 and I just couldn't find what suited me. So, a little under 2 years ago, I'm actually coming up on my gig anniversary as well, what I call it. March 25th was the first show that I ever played out into Central Virginia music scene, my first ever solo show.
Oh,
And that
wow.
was at the Clubhouse Bar and Billiards in Lynchburg.
Okay.
And that for me was like a huge just step of courage because it was me saying like, look, I'm going to do this. Not going to listen to what society is telling me. And I'm just going to jump off the deep end with this and see what happens. It hasn't always been easy. There are still financial struggles and stuff like that, but I don't let that sway me from just keeping my nose on the grindstone and
Well,
just keep working at this.
that's kind of one of the stories I share of when I started this is I started a Mary Kay part-time side hustle thing 28 years ago and left my corporate job 20 almost 23 and a half years ago, and people thought I was crazy. Like,
Right.
you're leaving corporate. And still to this day, I get, are you still doing that Mary Kay thing? I'm like, well, are you still an attorney or are you still a whatever? I'm like, yeah. And it's given me an amazing life. And yeah, it's not always easy. I can tell you 23 years later, it is much better and it gets much easier. But there's some days that I'm like, oh, do I really want to do this? And then you
Right.
think of the 9 to 5 grind and the all the back end stuff that happens with it, and it's so worth it. So keep
It
going,
is.
and I applaud you for doing that
Right.
because it is a big leap of faith. But you just got to do it, and you got to stand your ground. Like, this is what I'm doing.
Right. And in the midst of all that, struggling with the sobriety thing, I don't struggle as much with it now. Now it's just kind of like, I don't know, second nature. Just to not drink. I don't know. It's just happens. But a lot of people, especially when I'm playing in a bar, a restaurant, a lot of people will come up to me and be like, how do you even, stand up here and tell people that you're sober when you're standing in a bar? People are all around you drinking and you're just up here. And I tell them like, look, man, I don't know. I let the music take me. I put my focus and my heart into my music and into my family. And that is what drives me to stay off that bottle and to keep, stay out of the bad stuff. It's not easy, but it's not hard at the same time because I've disciplined myself to know
Right.
like this is what I should and should not do. It's not good for me. What is good for someone else or what is, okay for someone else is not okay for me. And
Right.
I've reconciled with that. So I can walk into a bar and I can sit at the bar and I'll order myself, a virgin tequila sunrise. And you have no idea the funny looks I get
Oh, I bet.
from a bartender when they're like, "Do you want a virgin tequila sunrise? So you want pineapple juice and grenadine?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I want." It just makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Right. So let's talk about your journey to becoming sober, the courage it took you to do that. Was it like just one day? Did something happen? Did you like, I'm just done with
Me,
it? Or was it a journey?
yeah. So it actually been a problem for a while. I started drinking heavily after high school. I actually took my first drink when I was 14. I remember, and now that I'm 26, I've like really done a lot of soul searching over the last year, and a lot of dipping into my childhood and figuring out who I was and everything. And I think the reason that I picked up the drink in the first place was just to finally get this feeling of acceptance from my dad. I had spent my whole life, going from a biological family to now an adopted family, and I just wanted acceptance from somebody. So I thought maybe, drinking with him would be that. Turns out it wasn't. It actually just stemmed a whole slew of alcoholism for me in my life. And after high school, I started drinking a lot, partying a lot. I was doing different drugs and popping pills and different stuff like that.
Were you in the
Um,
music? Were you performing then or
no, I wasn't actually.
no?
I was so throughout high school, I was really involved in the arts department. I did the musicals, and I was really involved in choir. That's why I learned all my vocal coaching and everything was in choir. And I thought for sure I wanted to be a music teacher. My senior year, I took a internship with my choir teacher, and I learned real quick that maybe this isn't for me. It's a little bit too complicated. And then after high school, I was like, found like, what am I going to do with my life? So that's when I joined the medical field and did the CNA thing. And then I jumped around kitchens, and all in the midst of, drinking and partying with all of my buddies and stuff, buddies of which that I don't have anymore, because it was like, as soon as I quit drinking, they were like, "Well, we don't want
Isn't
you."
that amazing how it is? And I wonder
It's
too if
crazy.
the environment you lived in, I mean, you live at a resort area, a lake. I wonder if that contributed to a lot of people on
I was
vacation.
actually, at the time, I was actually living homeless in my van. Um,
Okay.
so my parents had kicked me out. This was in 2017, 2018. And I was homeless, living out behind Happy Coffee in Bedford. It was a little coffee shop. And I was actually working at Happy Coffee. They didn't know that I was living behind the shop in my van every
Wow.
night. Every morning I'd get up and I'd run down to Bedford YMCA, and I'd take a shower real quick. I had a membership down there. I'd take a shower, brush my teeth, and I'd go run down to Happy Coffee, open up the shop for the day. And they found out I was living in my van behind the shop, and the owners actually offered me a room in their house to kind of
Oh
help me
wow.
get back up on my feet. And they were letting me work for them while, pay them rent and everything. And long story short, with that, they actually ended up scamming all of us and running off to El Salvador.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah,
no.
that's a whole nother slew of story. We have to
Wow.
talk about that one time. But that was actually all in the midst of when I met my wife, Amy. She was a regular at the coffee shop. She did not like me at all. Not many people did when I was in the height of my drinking,
Right.
which is understandable. It took a little bit of coming around for her, but we actually started living together. We started dating within, I think it was like 2 to 3 months after meeting each other. So I pulled on her heartstrings a little bit, I guess. And then we moved in together, and that's when everything kind of flipped upside down with the coffee shop being sold, and they scammed us and ran off. So we were actually homeless. She moved in with me at their house, and we were like, where the heck are we both gonna go now? So her family actually brought us in. Her mom and dad brought us in and let us live with them for about a year, I think it was, until we finally got up on our feet and got our own place. But it was in that year, about that year and a half, when just I was still drinking hard and partying hard. And I actually pulled Amy into a little bit of that lifestyle, which I kick myself all the time still for. I still work on the forgiveness aspects on my
Right.
side, forgiving myself. But she it was in that year and a half span that things got really bad, and I started getting just, I was not the same person. I was, every time I drank, I'd get angry and aggressive, and it was just, I became a spitting image of my dad.
Isn't that
And
amazing how things we just we model what we learn. As
right,
much
it's
as we
all
don't like it, we try to
right.
we copy
And
it.
not to say that it was my dad's fault in any way, because it's not. You know, that's my choice. It was my
Right.
choice to pick
But
up
that's
bottle.
what you knew. That was your reality.
Exactly. And that was the moment that I realized, like, look, this, I found myself waking up in my buddy Dave's camper one morning. I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know what had happened. And then I find out that I had actually gotten into a huge argument with Amy's family, and things went sideways, and found myself homeless again, rock bottom. There's my rock bottom moment.
Wow.
And I spent the next month just working to the bone, getting myself straight, and talking with her family and pleading with them and apologizing and everything. And by some grace, they gave me a second chance, and here I am today, now, just being able to say that thank you to them for giving me that second chance.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes that's really, and now I see why they say that. Sometimes that's really all anybody with addiction needs, is we just need that second chance to really
Right.
show you that we can.
And sometimes a third and a fourth, and
Right.
it's not an easy journey. I know other
Exactly.
people that have been in your situation a lot older and with a lot more at stake in life. Not that you weren't, that ended up homeless
Right.
because of addiction. And it's a disease. It's a scary disease, and society feeds it very well. There's somebody I know my niece follows that does a blog about. She's um, stopped drinking, and it's interesting. You have your extreme young doing tons and just partying nonstop to a lot of women, not to categorize, that I know that just come home from work. It's been a stressful day. They have a drink and it's a bottle of wine, and then it's an issue. So this person has a blog, and she talks about how society makes drinking okay, and it's part of society. Like, let's go out to dinner and have a drink. Let's go to a winery. Let's go listen to music and have a drink. It's been a hard day. Today is St. Patrick's Day when we're recording this. You
I,
know,
I literally said to my wife last night, I said, look, St. Patrick's Day is like the day that everyone is just okay with drinking all day long, and no
yeah,
one says anything about
no.
it.
And so, I mean, it's so prevalent that that's accepted.
Right.
That, and if you don't drink, people are like, "What's wrong with you?"
I get it all the time.
To the
Like,
point,
you, especially people my age. Like,
yeah,
I have very few friends my age. Most of my friend circle are people 40 and above,
right.
because it's like kids, my people my age, they're just like, they don't want to hang out with me because I
No,
don't
they don't think
drink.
life can be fun if you're not drunk.
Right.
And I know people like that. Like, I will say I drink. I don't drink a lot, but I drink. But I'm like, I'm
Right.
good with one good cocktail and I'm done. Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't like the feeling of not being in control. And I love I mean, I will go out and enjoy a drink or two, but
I
I'm
just
not
recently
one that's
found this
gonna.
whole slew of non-alcoholic beers.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
there's
And
a
I'm
bunch
just
of
like,
non-alcoholic
wow.
beers, and there's a bunch of mocktails. There's a
Right. And
bar that just opened in DC. It's just a mocktail bar.
so when we came up, my first band show this year was at Capitol Ale House, the Richmond Music Hall,
Okay.
this year in January. And we came up there, and I actually tried my first non-alcoholic beer at Capitol Ale House. And it was like mind blowing. I was like, wow, I actually can, like, walk around the bar and people not give me funny looks. And I still am not actually drinking alcohol. This is really cool. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
There's a funny story about that. So they've had non-alcoholic beers for years and years and years. And I was with a friend one day, and he was drinking way too much. And so he went to the restroom, and I told the bartender to start giving him
You trick him.
non-alcoholic
You
beer.
tricked
And he had no idea. But going back to the society and how it's so normal to talk about drinking, my youngest sister has Down syndrome. Doesn't drink, never really. I mean, she's had a few sips here and there, but it'll be interesting. She's 40 now, and it'll be she'll go, "Oh, I had a hard day," or "It's happy hour," or and she'll go, "I need a drink." I'm like, she just hears that modeled, and so she's not that she's ever going to have one, but that's what she
Right.
does. It's
Uh-huh.
kind of interesting. So when did you start playing music?
Oh man, music for
Was
me.
Amy is a musician when you met her? Or did she
Amy
get
is a
into music?
musician, yes. So
Okay.
she,
She put you into
her
it?
whole family are musicians. They're
Okay.
really heavy into bluegrass music. When I met Amy, she was playing with her family. I actually kind of stole their bass player a little bit. Sorry, Ricky. But they were playing in a family band. They have an amazing family bluegrass band that they've done for years. Ricky's been playing music his whole life since he was 11, I think, is when he won his first mandolin competition.
Oh wow.
But for me, music started when I was in fifth grade, and my school did a Grease musical, and I was one
Mhm.
of the Grease boys in that, and we performed that. And then right after that, or that was fourth grade, and then fifth grade, one of the cafeteria ladies invited me to the summer program down at the local church in Huddleston, for their musical program that they were putting on. And that was when I kind of fell in love with the whole like the performing arts thing.
Mhm.
Was a very young age. And I got on stage with them, and I really fell in love with it. So I stuck with it. I started learning guitar when I was 10 years old. I had gotten straight A's on my report card. And this is one of those good memories that I have from my
Yeah.
childhood. I got straight A's on my report card, and my mom said, "All right, well, here's $100. You can go buy whatever you want." So we went to the pawn shop in Bedford, and it was this really old, beat up New York Pro off-brand classical guitar. Didn't even have all strings on it. And I was like, that's what I want. I want that guitar right there. And it was a
Oh wow.
$75 guitar. And I bought it, put new strings on it. And my mom got me lessons. And I took lessons for about a month. Learned like pretty much the bass chords and everything. And just kind of took it from there myself. And I started picking in the church band down at Huddleston. I was the praise and worship leader for them for a while. And then throughout middle school and high school is when I started jamming with buddies and stuff outside of school. And then throughout high school is when I did all the musicals, and I was really big in choir. I did district choir and all state choir, and I did honors choir my senior year. I was ranked first in the state for
Oh
tenor
wow.
one and tenor two my junior and senior year. So that was really cool. I have those medals still hanging in my room.
Wow.
Um, and then everything just kind of fell off for me after that. That was when I started drinking a lot, and I lost my passion for music till I met my wife and her family. And I just think it was the universe, man. The universe was bringing me right back into music, and they knew what I needed. And now I'm going on my fourth year sober, and it's because of the Ellis family that I got back into music. I remember every morning waking up with Amy at her parents' house when we were living with her parents, and every morning I'd wake up and I'd hear Ricky downstairs playing a banjo or a mandolin or a guitar or something. I'd hear him playing some kind of instrument, and I had to go down and I had to play with him.
Oh.
So that was just kind of the universe pulling me right back into it, and I'm forever in debt to them for just bringing me in and getting me back on my feet.
Yeah. Great story. And I've kind of followed you on social media, seeing you down there, and I know you and Amy just got married last
Hmm.
year.
Yep, in October last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get married on Dave's dock, or it was
No,
arranged?
so we were originally going to get married on Dave's dock, but that
Okay.
was right in the middle of Hurricane Ian.
Okay.
So Hurricane Ian happened, and we were like frantically like, "What are we gonna do?" the week of the wedding. Actually, I say we as if it was both of us. It was me freaking out. Amy was actually calm as could be. She was like, "It's okay. We're gonna be fine." Because
Oh,
my drummer for the band for Christian Q and the Groove, John, his family actually it's now open, but they own Old Town Social House in Rocky Mount, Virginia.
Okay.
that just recently opened up. And at the time when we were getting married, they were like in the process of getting it all, finalized, the building, and getting everything set up to get ready to open in the new year. And they were just like, look, we've got this space. It's got a bunch of old vintage furniture. You can totally decorate it out for your whole wedding if you want to. You can use it. Here you go. And they saved the whole wedding day.
Wow.
So it turned out great.
Yeah, I
And
loved
then
all
we
your pictures.
then we
It
went to
definitely had
Okeechobee
your
Island.
style on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was cool. So, and I love that it sounds like, you were adopted and went some rough times, but the community really helped establish who you are.
Yeah.
I know
Mhm.
you're very close with Dave Owens, and
If
I
it
remember
wasn't man,
going,
if it wasn't for that man, I wouldn't be out in the music scene.
yeah, and I remember going years ago. My friend and I would take the boat, and he knew, and another friend, several friends knew Dave, and I remember many a days sitting at the dock, him playing and just jamming. It's funny, my friends that, some friends that live at the lake, they're like, yeah, they started doing this music on the dock because of COVID. I'm like, oh no, 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 we
Oh
were
no.
out on the dock. And my friend's condo was at Bernard, and we could
Uh-huh.
be sitting on the balcony, and he
Yeah,
goes,
you
yeah,
can hear it. That's
well,
what we
not
love.
here. Well, we could hear, but he would say, "Oh, Dave's doors are open. We should go over there. They're playing. They're getting ready to jam." Like he could see across the lake if the door was open to the boathouse.
Well, I can promise you now you can hear it.
Oh, absolutely. So Labor Day, and I love that you guys do the concert. So this is kind of fun. If anybody's listening or watching, and you spend time at Smith Mountain Lake, they do. You still going to do it this year? The concerts
Yes,
on.
ma'am. We got 3.
So,
We were actually talking about it this morning. It's so funny to bring
so
it
much
up.
fun. So Memorial Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July, the Sunday of those holiday weekends,
Yep.
they jam on the dock at
Yep.
Dave's house.
Right
And
past marker R8.
okay, I don't know where. I just know where it is on the lake. Well, it's
If you're
funny.
a lake person, you know what that means.
Okay, so I had a friend of mine last year that was there staying at Bernard's, and we were texting back and forth. And I know she's into music. I'm like, oh, you got to go. If you're around, take your boat over there. And she went. And she's like, this is the coolest thing. But there were probably 200-300 people, boats everywhere. We pulled up, and Hannah and her friends, which I remember Hannah when she was a little girl,
Yeah.
Hannah and the Jello shots. But we were there, I guess, Labor Day, and left before you guys were done, and went back to the dock, and we were across near Bernard's and docked the boat. And I'm like, we can hear them almost as good over here than it was over there. So yeah, so that's a fun thing. So, but I love, Dave is definitely the father figure, and I've watched him,
Definitely.
watched your story with him, and we need those. We need people to guide us when we don't have
Right.
our own parents or role models.
That's right.
So, I know you've got a bright future ahead of you, lots of great things. So, anything you would share to encourage somebody else to be courageous?
Just be yourself. That's one thing I've learned most important. And especially, I don't know, like I said, I've done a lot of soul searching in the last 6 months. I'm almost on the verge of tears because I've spent a lot of time in the last 6 months to a year just really searching myself and diving back into my childhood memories, and it's taken a lot for me to realize I'm 26 years old and I had no idea who I was until now. And sorry.
That's okay. It's a journey, and it takes courage. Whoops, I lost him. Uh-oh. Hopefully we can get him back in here. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to kill some time here. So Kristen got a little choked up and left my screen. We've been having lots of technology issues. So I will hope he comes back on. But meantime, we're almost done, so that's good. But I always try to tie this back to my dad. Now, of course, Christian never met my dad, but his story has a lot of similarities and a lot of coincidences. Like my dad grew up in California, moved to the East Coast. I could say that. But I think the biggest thing is not tying Christian but tying Christian's life that my dad was one of those people. It sounds like Dave Owens was to Christian, and my dad helped a lot of people that were struggling to help them turn their life around. He was the father figure. I know I have friends that say they had more conversations with my father than they ever did their own father. And so I think that ties in my dad to my dad so much that, yeah, Christian, it took a village, and he's only 26. He has such a big life ahead of him, such a journey ahead of him. So sorry, he got off. I know he's having internet issues. So, but as I said, we're almost done. So I'm going to finish up now. We may have a second recording I'll add as an addendum to this if he comes back in. But I want to thank Christian for being my guest, for being open and sharing his story. And I hope this gives other people hope. And if you are struggling or know somebody struggling, to get help and there's a better life. And if you're on the journey for music and you be you and do what makes you happy, and you can make a difference and touch people's lives. So Christian does have a song that he wrote that is about his journey and becoming sober, and so I can share that too in the show notes. So thanks again for listening. I'm excited. This is our second year as a podcast, and it's been exciting to hear Christian's story. Please encourage somebody else to listen. We're on all the platforms, iTunes, Spotify. Like us, review us if you wouldn't mind. Check out the website. And yeah, thanks for being a listener of Why Not Today. And just say, why not today? Anything is possible. All right. Thanks again, Christian. And it was a great episode. Bye.